Hi, everybody. It's Andrea Pocket, host of Stigma-Free Voices podcast for the Stigma-Free Mental Health Society. Welcome today. I am so excited. We have a wonderful guest, a neoclassical pianist and composer and storyteller, and somebody who's here to share about mental health and their thoughts. And so, welcome, Martin. I am so excited to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a great pleasure to be here.
Yeah, 100%. And let us know, the audience, where are you coming in from exactly?
Beautiful British Columbia, Vancouver. It's a bit overcast, but that's about the way that it is here. And usually, we did have some beautiful sunshine past couple of days, so I won't bore you too much with my weather report.
I know, as people, we always love talking about the weather. So,
Yeah,
30
of course.
degrees here in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, where I live in my rural community,
Nice.
and super sunny and beautiful. So excited for this day and to talk mental health stigma. And
Hmm.
all of the most interesting things that we always do. So, I'm going to start sharing your bio. And then I thought we could just jump into a few questions and get going. Does that sound good to you?
Sounds great to me.
Hey, perfect. So, Martin Mayer is an internationally acclaimed pianist and composer known for his signature style of instrumental fusion, blending classical, jazz, pop, and cinematic influences. He's described as Canada's Prince of Piano, which I love. By the Beijing Times, Mayer has performed sold out tours across Asia, collaborated with Grammy-winning artists, and reached millions of listeners worldwide. His newest release, the Solo Piano Collection, offers an intimate look at his 25-year-long journey through music, paired with a companion sheet music book. Based in Vancouver, Mayer continues to inspire through performance, composition, and community engagement as well. So today, we're going to have a candid discussion about the reality behind Martin's polished career image and the process of recovery that reshaped both his life and his relationship with music. So it's wonderful to hear all of these things about you that I had no idea. Yeah, very
I didn't
impressive.
either. I didn't know any of that about me. When somebody says Canada's Prince of Piano, I was like, where's that tiara? Which box is that in today?
Yes, that's amazing. So, speaking of that, for the first question, you were known as Canada's Prince of Piano after completing what was described as the largest tour by any international artist in China's modern history. So, from the outside, your career looked perfect.
Yeah.
And what was actually happening behind all of this? Was this a facade? And what was going on for you during this time?
Yeah, it's so interesting to talk about that because when I think about that first tour, which is now in September, will be 25 years ago, we
Mhm.
actually started rehearsing the night before 9/11. And on the night of, I had band members coming back in and saying, we're not going on tour. We're not going anywhere. I don't want to be on a plane. I don't want to go into a foreign country. I ended up spending the next 3 to 4 weeks, bearing the sort of crushing brunt of how do you move forward with an international project when you don't know how people are feeling. I didn't know how I was feeling except for the fact that I was terrified. I'd been on tour before. My biggest performance to date was taking an 18,000, no, not 18,000, $35,000 loan at 18 to produce my debut concert. And that concert was supposed to get me recognized in North America. That didn't happen. I got recognized and hired in Asia instead. What that tour ended up being was me on the outside performing and on the inside feeling like I was being crushed by massive amounts of energy that I didn't know and understand. I didn't know how to deal with um, any of the nerves and anxiety of being in front of thousands of people that I hadn't recognized, and then being mobbed for autographs, and people knocking at my hotel room door at 3 o'clock in the morning asking for autographs and things like that. Police escorts and billboards and things like that everywhere. It looked ideal on the outside, but on the inside, I felt like I was just drowning.
Mm.
It
Tell me
just
more
had
about
this,
that.
yeah, it had this. I always had nerves when it came to recital time. right, when I was studying piano. And I remember in one of the summer jazz camps, Tommy Banks, great Canadian musician, was the person that was leading that. And I remember having to play in front of him, and I was so nervous. And I remember waking up that morning, and I was like, "Yeah, I don't feel well," and you could feel it in the stomach. It was more than that, just sort of butterflies thing. And that was my first experience with anxiety. That was
Mm,
that first sort of thing of, you've got that cortisol and the adrenaline and everything like that that is coursing through your body, and your body doesn't know what to do with it. And for me, it always landed in my stomach. That was always my
mhm,
Achilles heel. Later on, it went into the shoulders and whatnot. So when you see us as performers, we are in an environment where we are oftentimes putting on something that is very different than what we're feeling and experiencing. You're seeing the polished version, you're seeing what we are working to get through. And on the other side is the human being that is fighting off
mhm,
a cold, that is having problems at home, that is dealing with mental health issues that are spiraling in every single direction, and medication isn't working. It's it is such a different story of what it's like to be on the stage
mm.
and what it's like to witness what is happening on that stage.
Yeah. I think as people too, that's such a good point, Martin. I think of society and even myself at times like needing to put on this facade, right? Like
Mhm.
everything is great. We are, a public face or just people going to work, or we don't really know inside people's hearts what they're struggling with, which is why it's always so important to be kind, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. And so you're talking about, music culture, and there's a lot of expectations around perfection and discipline. So, how did that culture contribute to your reluctance to seek help or even admit that you were struggling?
I think it was when, after some of those tours and, getting back into the studio and recording and having all of these things happen where, I went to China, then I went to Taiwan, then I went back to Czech Republic where I'm originally from. And I knew that something was wrong when I was getting a provincial award for excellence in arts, and I wasn't enjoying it.
Mm,
Remember going back to the hotel room with this statue and sort of putting it down and being like, Yeah, I don't feel this." And I didn't understand that. And I remember, going home at the time and thinking, I have no idea what this is. I talked with my doctor, and he said, "Well, you've been running on energy, right, that you don't necessarily have." And I just remember saying, "Oh, like, okay, the three hardest words that I had to say at that point in my
mhm,
life were, 'I need help.'" And walking into, a free mental health clinic, hoping that people weren't going to judge me, that they weren't going to look at me and go, "Oh, well," like, I remember having the conversation with my mom saying, "I don't feel right. Something doesn't feel the way that it
mm,
should. I don't feel as excited about this as I should." And she said, "Well, you're young and you're successful and good looking," and, typical sort of mother encouragement talk. "What have you possibly got to be depressed about?"
mm,
And it was that step where you go, "Okay, I need help," and you put your entire being and who you are into the hands of somebody else that goes, "Okay, let's figure this out." And it was probably the most compassionate person that I could have come across at the time, because she just completely led me by the hand, explained what was going on, and taught me about my own mental health in a way that I had never seen before, never thought about,
mhm.
right? And
Yeah.
then when some of these feelings started to show up again, I was like, "Okay, so now it's rebuilding some of that, or how do I mean, I will honestly say that in the 25 years of doing music, I've spent 25 years working on my mental health every single day.
Mhm.
How
Yeah.
how do I become stronger? How do I become more resilient?"
Mhm.
And you're right, there is a certain level of perfectionism because we are, in our own ways, actors. Or, as somebody said to me during my recent medical journey, is we as musicians are elite athletes. We spend hours practicing, we spend hours performing, and we throw our bodies against stages and buses and, you know, bad sleep and bad food. And unless you have somebody that is on the other side that is 100% watching everything that you're doing and, you
Mhm.
know, making sure that you're eating what you're supposed to, that can become really challenging to, you know, uphold on your own.
Yeah. Well, that is so true. And I was wondering as well, like, what finally made you realize you couldn't keep going the way that you were going? Was there some kind of moment where you were just like that, aha, and this is what I need to do? Like, how did that happen for you?
I think it really became really apparent, you know, during that big tour. I mean, I went from doing a single, you know, self-financed, self-produced concerts to all of a sudden this massive national concert tour. And I wasn't prepared for it. I mean, we were rehearsing, we were doing the music, but I wasn't in anywhere preparing my mind or my body, right? How much sleep do I need? What do I need to eat? What does my schedule look like, right? Is this too much? Are we overdoing it?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it was during that, and it was almost like that entire 6-week tour, um, really sort of created this, uh, I would almost call it like an emergency response system in my brain that sort of was created. And then once the tour was over and you go into the next project, that alarm system is still there. And it's just sort of pinging at you, but you still don't know it well enough to know how to respond to it. And it's taken years and years and years of practice. And even to this day, it's not perfect. I mean, my last tour before the pandemic was 20 cities in 30 days. And I remember when when the agent came and said, I was like, yeah, no, I can't do that. We have 11 shows here that are back to back in 11 different cities. And so it's, you get up in the morning, you fly to the city, you set up the stage, you do the sound check, you have dinner, you do the show, you meet the audience, you go to bed, and then you just do the same thing over and over for 11 days.
Mm, wow.
And so I have a huge amount of respect for people that go, this is too much and I can't do this. And we've seen it a number of times with musicians. And what I really want to say and emphasize is that if you're finding that it's too much and you're headed in a direction where you know that you can stop it, it is okay to stop it. And it is important to do that because there's only one of you, right? Um, we can replace concerts, we can replace anything else, but we can't replace ourselves. The best thing that we can do is just be our own best advocate.
Yeah. No, that is so true. And having to take care of ourselves and know where our limits are for sure. And that's not
Mm,
weakness, that's strength. And
absolutely.
I was curious as well. So, what were the biggest barriers you faced in like admitting you needed help, and what finally broke that resistance?
That's such a yeah, that's such a great question. I think the biggest thing was fear around stigma, right?
Mm,
I'd had a lot of difficulty in my childhood in terms of, you know, escaping communist Czechoslovakia, moving to Germany, and you know, not being accepted there because even though I was a Caucasian kid, I was not a German kid. Then coming to Canada into you know, into a city where it was a hockey town and I was an artistic kid and I was an immigrant kid and all this sort of stuff. So when you get to a point where all of a sudden you feel like you've already dealt with so much stigma in your life just from who you are, how do you put that how do you put more of I need help or I can't do this anymore into somebody else's hand? But
mhm.
the only way that I could do it was just doing that is, and I remember pacing outside that mental health clinic for about, you know, half an hour. And anytime somebody came out, I always ducked away to like I was waiting for the bus or something. And at some point I just went, okay, enough. You have to walk in. It's the worst case is they're gonna say they can't help you.
Mm,
And the best is what happened is that they actually helped me. And they helped me figure out what it was. And so
mm,
it took strength that I didn't know that I had.
yeah. So, what did that recovery process look like? Like, not the Instagram version, the real day to day work of rebuilding.
The real day-to-day looks like you forget about everything that has to be polished and the expectations of what you want or what other people expect of you. You have to focus on you. And for me, that became, how am I taking care of my health? What am I eating? What am I consuming? What am I allowing in my mind to ruminate? I didn't realize until a number of years ago that I identify as a highly sensitive person. And seeing that and reading that made me go, yes, this makes sense. Yes, that makes sense. Turn this off. If you turn that off, this in here stops, right? The mind stops hanging on to things that aren't important. You have to put yourself first. I learned it the hard way multiple times over. And when I didn't, I ended up, landing in the emergency room, not being able to control my own mind and body. And when you crash that hard because you go like, oh yeah, I'm fine, but you're not keeping up with what is required in order for you to have that strength. We're not just talking about physical strength, right? We're talking about mental, functional strength training. And that is hard, dedicated work. And it's not something that you can just go, I'll take medication. Medication helps with the
Chemical part.
thank you. That's the word that we're looking for. It's a Monday. The brain's not fully working
Oh,
yet.
good.
It works with the chemical imbalances, but you still have to do the work and make the change in terms of the lifestyle and the expectations.
Yeah.
And so it's when you remove those expectations and just put them away, and it's like, no, it doesn't have to be this perfect, and no, it doesn't have to be on Instagram, and no, it doesn't have to be shared. When you take all of that expectation and pressure away, that allows you to be what it used to be before social media consumed so much of our lives.
But it's interesting because your new album, the Solo Piano Collection, it deliberately documents your recovery journey, which is so inspiring. And I was just curious, what made you decide to make your struggle visible instead of keeping it hidden?
Yeah, so for me, that particular struggle was, for the first time in my life, both mental and physical. I was in a motor vehicle accident coming home on the last tour. Flew forward into my luggage, bracing myself, dislocated my left fifth finger, sprained my right, ended up with massive amounts of pain in my body that there was nothing for. I ended up going through 233 appointments, 21 specialists, a major surgery. And then when I got through all of that at the height of the pandemic, all of a sudden there was something that destroyed the rest of the mental health that I had, that was fighting for the physical, the understanding, and that stigma of like, no, you don't understand. You can't just put this finger back the way that it was. This is my work, right? My work as an artist and as a pianist comes first. What was so important for me to do as a celebration on the other side of that is to take the best solo piano pieces that I'd written over my career and include new ones that I'd written since that recovery, including a piece called New Beginnings. And for the first time with that one, I'm sharing the artwork that I did in art therapy when they said, so what do you imagine your life being like after this struggle and after this journey is over? And so it's a beautiful sunrise, with on the water. And it is such a personal thing to put out there. And the reason that I wanted to do that is because when I was going through it and at the height of it, my hand therapist sent me a story about a flautist in New York that had experienced the exact same thing. Couldn't find treatments. Doctors were saying, yeah, just take this medication. She's like, it's not working. Her sharing her story was the catalyst for what allowed my team to finally go, this is what this is how we fix it, and this is how we get him back. And so me wanting to openly share this story and my journey is because I wanted to help others. And the other piece of that is that in our industry, in music, there is so much stigma around if you're injured or there's something wrong, it's like, it's okay, just take the step back and, we'll call you when you're ready. People sort of almost silently start writing you off. Whereas in the
Mm.
sports world, you can break your leg in 6 pieces and you're back playing golf in 6 weeks and everybody's cheering you on.
Mhm.
And so part of this is also, this is now part of my story, not just the mental health piece, but the physical recovery and all that sort of stuff. And so me wanting to share that is twofold. One is to make sure that other people out there know it's okay not to be okay. We are human beings. We are flesh and blood. We are mental and physical. And two, to help break, which is what you so bravely do with your work, is to help start breaking more of that stigma in the music industry and the arts
Mhm.
industry, that if you're injured, that you can't come back. I am living proof that you can.
Yeah. Thank you. Very inspiring for sure. And I was just curious as well too, like your relationship with music itself. Like how did that change through this process? And how did you go from music being something that was breaking you to something that could heal you?
Yeah, it's such an interesting question because, the year before this accident happened, I actually released an album called Unbreakable, and
Mm.
on the cover of it is a piano that has, been through the ringer, and so there's broken keys and all this sort of stuff. For me, when I was writing the music for that album, it was a recovery from the sort of mental health crash that I had in 2014. And so it was interesting, and the sort of cosmic timing of it, right? For me, how the relationship changed with music was that I went from being on top of the world and playing in front of audiences to not being able to lift a teacup.
Mm.
And I had to learn the very hard way to back off from everything, from the piano that I'm sitting in front of today as we're talking, because I couldn't play. Um, it was just excruciatingly painful. So I had to walk away from who I was and what my identity had been, and
Mm.
really carve away space to go, okay, I'm going to write music, but I'm going to write it on my iPad so that when I'm ready to go back to the piano, that I can. Now, when I play with enjoyment. I've learned to play differently. I've had
Mm.
people say to me, "You need to hold your body differently this way." You spend years playing and everything like that. You forget some of the things that you're taught in school. So music now for me is another way of just doing what it's always done, which is to share a story and help heal people with music. But in this case, I'm now using my own music to help heal myself. And that is such a different relationship for me to have with that music, because I've always saved that for the audience. I never thought that, it would be something that would benefit me. And
Yeah.
it's incredible to have that and to feel that. It allows me to play and enjoy the music differently, and I hope that comes through in everything that I do.
Yeah. So loving what you do, right? Like maybe, I don't know, kind of what I'm trying to see and maybe what I'm understanding is like it was work structured. Is it more playful now? Is it like something that brings you more joy or like what's that like for you?
I think it's more joy, I think it's more passion, I think it's
Yeah.
more fulfillment.
Mm.
It's more of that playing for the sake of playing, not always needing to write something because you have to record it and put it out and hope that it gets streamed or whatever. When I started in music some 35 years ago, the first time that I sat down at a piano, I played because I wanted to play. And
Mhm.
somewhere along the way, something said, "Okay, this is now a business." And I've always loved both parts of the word music business.
Mm.
But in the past, I would say probably 7 or 8 years, the business side has started to go really in a direction that many of us as artists don't very much enjoy. And so what it allowed me to focus on this time was, okay, go back to where you were. Play the
Mm.
piano just because you wanted to, right? Um, I did a story with CTV News a couple of months ago, and they aired it. And the anchor that introduced the story afterwards said, listening to that story makes me want to go back and play my piano at home, but I just don't know if I have the courage to do that. So I sent her an email and I said, go, just play. Don't worry about practicing. Just play and enjoy the music. We take so much for productivity and being perfectionists and everything like that. Just enjoy life. Enjoy living and being. Don't worry about this or that or the other thing. That can be for another day. For now, just enjoy whatever it is that you like, whether it's writing, whether it's painting, whether it's cooking. For me, I love eating. That's one thing that I discovered more of when I couldn't play.
Yeah.
Which has done absolutely nothing for my appearance, but so.
No, play. That's important. Our previous podcast guest, he talked about the importance of play, and this really fits in beautifully. Yeah. So I know you talked about being a board chair of Watari Counseling and Support Services and working in arts leadership. So I was just curious how your own mental health journey informed the way you approach supporting other people.
Yeah. So I think with that, it's very simply in the phrase that you lead with compassion. With Watari, when I first joined them, so they're a social profit in the downtown east side here in Vancouver. And when I first joined, one of the things that they said is that our website isn't working, and we don't know how to get people to understand the programs that we have. And I had spent a number of years in graphic and web design. It was something that was a passion that I always did for myself. So I volunteered for it. And one of the things that we said is like, okay, well, we're going to go downtown into the downtown east side with a photographer and get some photos of some of the clients and sort of some of the spaces and the programs that this organization has. And I remember for the first time, and this is probably 10 years since I lived in Vancouver, for the first time going downtown into the east side, outside of my car, and feeling completely out of what they called as out of the game. And I remember them asking me, is like, are you sure? Are you okay with this? And I said, yes, because you have to lead with compassion and kindness. There's so many, I will say that I was guilty for many years before actually stepping foot in there and understanding that a lot of these people's problems comes from one simple thing where it's one choice or one set of circumstances that puts you on a path that you no longer have control of. And so when you lead from a place of compassion, I went from being that frightened young man that would drive through there and always lock his doors and roll up the windows to walking through and asking people how they are. And people came up and said, don't go down that way. And they're not saying you're in danger, but they want to make sure that everybody knows as you walk through there, you're not part of the game. You're not there. And so for me, it was wanting to elevate the programs that Watari was doing so that more people could take advantage of them. And one of the best stories from my time there was a woman that was in the downtown east side that took part in one of the programs that then, when she recovered, then came to be one of the staff to help other people. And so when you have the opportunity to work with people like that, whether it's at Watari or some of the other arts boards that I've been on, when there is a misunderstanding or when there is something that you don't understand, it is something that I inherently believe in that we need more of in this world today, which is leading, believing, and accepting everything with kindness. Yeah. Because anything other than that is just, I don't even know what the word is, but my mom always said to me, lead from your heart and everything will follow. And so that's what I do. I lead with my heart in my music and with everything that I do. And so that is my encouragement to everyone. Lead with heart and lead with kindness.
Yeah, no, that is so true. And sometimes it's difficult to do because we have our own biases and stigmas and we're human. But I think at the core of it, when we lead with compassion, love, kindness, then yeah, we make a great impact in the world. And just closing up soon here, I was just curious about what you wish the music community or like the broader arts community understood about mental health that maybe they don't right now?
Hmm. Certainly the stigma around it, right? We've come a very long way, especially in the past 5 years. I would say during COVID, there was much more of an understanding of people dealing with mental health, and that I hope will continue. I would say again the same thing is lead with kindness. If you don't understand what someone is going through, offer an ear or a
Mhm.
kind voice or a place of understanding. The other thing is that whether you're a musician or you're a dancer or whatever sort of professional, if you're not okay, it is okay to not be okay. I have huge respect for a Canadian artist by the name of Shawn Mendes, who, at the height of his
Yeah.
career, walked away from an 80 city tour. And when they said he will be back in 3 weeks, I shook my head and I said, there's realistically nothing that they can do for him that could put him back on that stage in any sort of way where he would be okay. He literally needed to walk away, shut everything off, and be okay to either come back or not come back. And the music that he put out afterward was part of his healing journey. And so be okay with not being okay and be okay with others not being okay. And where you can, if you can, help break that stigma
Mhm.
because we are human beings and we only have so much time on this earth to make it as best that we can.
Louis Capaldi too, right? Like definitely dealing with Tourette's and all of his challenges and anxieties, and then coming back after and putting out this beautiful album, like, and what you've done, and Shawn Mendes, and having that struggle, like, coming out from it afterwards is just so
Mhm.
inspiring to hear. And I know you already gave us some timbits and golden nuggets around what you want other artists to know if they are struggling, but is there one last line maybe or thought that you'd like to share around that theme?
I would say from my own experiences, if you're in any sort of way shy or reserved about asking for help, don't be. And I would say that stigma-free mental health society would be, if now I was in trouble, that would be a resource that I would go to. There are a plethora of people that, want to help and that want to be understanding and want to be supportive. So if you need help, ask for it. It's just human nature, and it doesn't have to be frightening. I know it can be because, like I said, I paced outside that clinic for 30 minutes wondering what was going to happen. But it
Yeah,
can literally be the best decision that you can make. And those three words, "I need help," don't have to be scary. And the more that we
exactly.
remove the stigma that they are, or that having something as a mental health challenge is a stigma, the more that we remove that, and I'm so grateful for the work that you and your organization are doing with that, especially with the education of young kids and young adults. The more that we remove that, the more we understand each other. And so don't be afraid and just go out and ask for support.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Martin. It's been such a pleasure to interview you today. And is there any place where people could find your music, find you, or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. martinmayer.com is the best place. Of course, I'm on Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube, Instagram. And one thing that I always like to say is that if anybody ever needs to reach out and have a friendly face or person to talk to, I'm very reachable through all of my social media and website. So please don't be shy.
Oh, so amazing. Leading from compassion. There you go, putting it into action, right?
Absolutely.
Well, stay on the line. I'd love to chat with you afterward. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Martin. And yeah, so remember Stigma-Free Voices. We are on Spotify, we are on YouTube, and also on stigmafreementalhealth.com. So really appreciate everybody's enthusiasm and everybody who's been listening to the podcast. If you find it afterwards on Facebook, Instagram, etc., please do share it after the fact. And I just want to say we really appreciate our stigma-free community because we truly believe in a world of understanding, acceptance, and awareness as well. And I hope everybody has a beautiful sunny day wherever you are. And hopefully you're getting some of it. And yeah, so take care and have a wonderful week. Thanks, everyone.